What's up, everybody? Saw a couple people say it was freezing. I think it's on your end because it's showing us it's healthy. But anyways, here with my buddy Aaron. So me and Aaron have known each other probably 25 years. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a
long time.
Long time. Yeah.
Since whatever, we were both playing
Over
in
2 decades.
bands. We played in bands or at the same shows, which I think is how we originally met, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just hung out in the same spots, same local bars, rock and roll stuff. And then Aaron founded a kind of like a side hustle project, a lighting company, Whiskerton. I actually have the sweatshirt on.
Yeah.
And needed help with photography, so I started going to their workshop, photographing their products. Did a lot of cool skateboard lights, where the trucks become like light bulbs and stuff. One of the things that was
Yeah.
you're known for. And then we started chatting more and more about bikes. I think you were mostly riding, what, single speed then?
Yeah, I kind of just started with a single speed that I went to my friend Rob's in Brooklyn and seen a bike hanging on his wall, and I came home and was kind of intrigued to maybe get one and start riding. So that's kind of what I started off on, just a single speed for a couple years.
Yeah, and then as we were like, at the end when you were still doing Whiskerton, we chatted more and more about bikes. And then you bought a couple more bikes, started going to Dirty River. And then I was like, man, you're riding so much, you should come out and ride with us sometime. And now we ride together pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of an introduction on Aaron. Now he runs his own HVAC company and then pretty much in all your free time riding
Ride
bikes.
bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, from it sounds a story like a lot of my friends who, you know, rode a little bit, kind of liked bikes, got a gravel bike, rode a ton of bikes, and now are kind of obsessed with riding.
Yeah, that's pretty much every day trying to find the free minutes to get out and do it. Always itching to get out and find a way to escape work.
Yeah. And so a couple of people mentioned about, to start off this, conditions of Mid-South and Unbound. You actually did Mid-South this year too, right?
Yeah.
And Mid-South conditions were good this year?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were good.
And then Unbound conditions were good this year, but they were both, I think they're, well, Unbound especially last year was trash. That's when people were dropping out because they had to run over like 2 miles of mud and all that. But
Yeah,
you hit them both on,
I got lucky.
yeah. Yeah. It's one of the one things that I've never, it's one of the reasons I haven't wanted to do Mid-South. I'd never considered Unbound because I thought it'd be so hard to get into. But Mid-South, because I'm like, man, people are talking about their derailleurs ripping off and all that kind of stuff. And so,
Yeah.
like, man, I don't know if I want to put my equipment through that. So,
Yeah. No, this was both events were dry. There wasn't all the mud. Like at Unbound, they gave everybody paint sticks to scrape. They say the mud's so thick that you have to like scrape it off the wheels, and it's. I took it and put it in my bag, and after riding the first 60 miles, I was like, "This isn't necessary. Everything's dry."
yeah. So, anyways, I was really curious, and like, I think a lot of us and a lot of people watch this. Watch all the Unbound coverage, watch Lachlan Morton win, which I was super stoked on. I've been following him forever, and a lot of people who follow the channel have.
Yeah.
And then there's all these videos about like Rafa has new aero kit for gravel, and like the tires people are selecting. But that's not what the majority of people who are going out there are doing. There's a couple hundred probably really elite riders,
Yeah.
and then there's a gigantic field of people just riding bikes, right? Their goal
Yeah.
is to either finish it or get a PR. Or,
Yeah, try to beat the sun. I met multiple people that have done multiple years, and they have the 350 XL, which is insane to watch.
Yeah.
Those guys head out on Friday at 3 p.m. to ride for over 24 hours, 32 hours, 40 hours, some of them.
So when you get in, I know you took 2 days getting out there, right?
Yeah, well, we left, and then we got a hotel and finished the rest of the drive the next day.
So when you get out to Emporia, like I think a lot of us, we only see it on race day, which is a hard way to actually see what's and through video or photos. Is it just what is it like compared to an Ohio? Is it like a Canton? Is it like a tiny town? Or?
It's a really small town. There isn't a ton going on. Very much reminds me of going to Mid-South with Stillwater. They do have a good coffee shop. They do have good restaurants. There's good food. There's good breweries. There's enough to keep you there and, have stuff to do when you're not riding. My wife went with me, and she had found places to go and things to do. So it's a cool town. It's just very limited. It's only a few blocks of, the spaces to see. The bike shops are there. They had 3 bike shops in 2 blocks.
Oh, huh.
And so that was cool.
So
Found some good food, and the vendors were all set up when we got there.
So there's probably is it like a big bike show kind of thing? Like the bike companies are there
Yeah.
and you could like walk around at tents and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all the bike companies are there. All the, people selling their nutrition snacks and gels and everything. Toolies there with their tents and just everybody's there set up for like basically a vendor show. There's food trucks, and so it was fun to walk around and check everything out. We went in the bike shops and checked out the different shops, and it was cool. I ran into at the coffee shop. I met this guy from Sedera Bike Bag Company, and we just got to talking, and he ended up we talked for a long time, and he ended up measuring my bike for like a full frame bag, and so we custom designed it on his computer, and I don't know, it's going to be cool. So
Nice.
I'll have that coming from that event.
Cool. And I'll show your bike a minute, and we'll talk about that once we get into the actual ride.
Yeah.
So even though it's such a huge event, the town can kind of handle it. Is that because the food trucks and vendors kind of spread people out, or if you want to get something to eat, is it just like
Yeah, I feel like
packed?
everybody's coming at different times. So everybody kind of goes through the vendor area at different times. And, after you do that, it's not like you're going to spend hours and hours doing that. And so everybody's kind of dispersing in different areas. Some people are camping, other people are in hotels. We were at the fairgrounds.
Is that the
Um,
horse track thing I saw you set up a tent on?
yeah,
Okay, I thought that was on your way out, but that's where you guys stayed.
that's where we stayed. We camped. And so they had a fairground where mostly you were seeing like fancy high end Mercedes, like sprinters with full build outs and, fancy bikes everywhere. And I was amazed at how many of those vehicles there are and how much money people have invested in this sport. Um,
So traveling to gravel events, and
Traveling
being
to
like
gravel
decked out
events.
when they set up.
Oh yeah, I mean they've got $200,000 vehicles with you know the same $30,000 worth of bikes on the back of them. But we pitched a tent underneath like the is like an animal show area in the fairgrounds. But there's other campers. It was nice because it was going to rain the first 2 nights that we were there, and nothing crazy, but we were undercover. So when it did rain, our tent wasn't getting wet. They also had tents set up for people that are traveling that don't want to bring a tent, and you can just rent a tent from them. So you can show up and your tent's already set up, and you can also rent. If you need somebody to help, with your food situation on the ride at the aid stations, you can hire that out too.
Oh, okay.
So I was lucky. I had my wife there to, you know, be at the aid stations
Support.
for me
Yeah.
because it's self-supported. But yeah, so you can hire their crews and basically bring a cooler with all the stuff that you want, and they'll show up there for you.
So what if you do that? Like, would you give it to them on like Friday night, and then they
Yeah.
get it to the? Because how many aid stations are there?
There's two.
Two. I thought there were only two, which is insane because it's 200 miles.
Yeah.
So basically, we're talking about classic Unbound here, is what Aaron did, and what we're discussing. So 200-mile ride for anyone who doesn't know, just two aid stations, which is insane. I always hear the names of them. What was one like Little Egypt, or is that just one of
What's that?
the two aid
The
stations?
aid stations. I can't remember.
Names don't matter, but like
Yeah.
what roughly mileage?
So the first aid station's at mile 71, and that was kind of. It was just in like it was weird because you're on hundreds of miles of gravel road. You don't think that there's any chance that you're going to come into any kind of a town or anywhere that has any pavement because you're so far out in the middle of nothing. And then the next thing you know, here you are and you roll in on a very small section of pavement, and there's a small little area with houses and a small little town area, and you're back out of it as quick as you came in, and you're back to nothing. But yeah, 71 and mile 149.
140. Okay.
And then there's two water stations that are provided by Unbound where you show up and they just have a huge water container. They take your bottles, they fill them up, and basically, I don't know, I collapsed and just laid in the grass for like 20 minutes with multiple other people that were kind of in the same position.
Just needed a. So how late was that into the?
That would have been, after, I think it was mile 113. I hadn't checked my phone all day because I was just, when you're on a ride like that, you're not really, my phone was in my bag. I wasn't looking at anything. I didn't have any music going or anything like that up at that point. And once I got to like mile 113, I was just a zombie because the sun came out and it just out there. There's no coverage.
No shade on any of this ride. Right?
No, zero shade. You're out in the sun all day. And it was nice because in the morning when the ride started, the pros left at 6, and then the rest of us rolled out at 6:30. And from about 6:30 to 9:30, it was overcast and it was nice. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the perfect weather for this ride. And then 9:30, quarter to 10, it just opened up and it was just direct sun and it didn't stop and it got super hot. And so, yeah, it got to be a lot. So at mile 113, I just was like collapsed. And luckily, Brad and Micah texted me and they were just like, "Hey, how are you doing? I hope you're hanging in there." Like, and it was just nice to get a text just to be like, just a little bit of like a, "Hey, you're going to get through this" type of situation. And so that was super cool. And then, I texted Kat and told her that I was going to be at the next aid station at,
Oh, your estimated time.
at my estimated time.
How does that? I'm really interested in how that works. So you're saying you could hire people, so those are obviously pros who know what they're doing. When your girlfriend's going to those two aid stations with your wife,
Yeah.
sorry, but yeah, I just thinking of myself if I was doing it. Like, how does that work? Is she driving to the two aid
Yes.
stations?
So the aid stations were only from Emporia to the first aid station was a 40-minute drive. And then she could have went back to Emporia, which I think that she did do. And then you can drive to the other aid station, which is only another 45 minutes. And so
yeah, because the distance for them aren't crazy because you're making kind of a giant loop.
So she was able to go back and like do, she was enjoying herself while I was out there just suffering. But but that's what I like to do.
Yeah, your wife has a nice day and nice country drive. And
Yeah.
So when you show up, you see her at the aid station. She's like helping fill your bottles, giving you the food to refill your bags and all that.
Yeah, she had like fresh fruit and stuff for me, and just like, making sure I had water and just kind of just being there also for mental support because, at the first aid station, I was just like, I rolled in and I was still chipper. When she saw me the second time, it was a completely different person.
Yeah.
I was not anywhere near as happy as I was the first time. But it was an experience. It was awesome, but it was also very many moments of just struggle. But any 200-mile ride is going to be a struggle.
Yeah, would you overall? So I wanted to get into the elevation and talk about because I don't think people talk about the elevation of Unbound enough. But before that, would you say finishing this is more of a because you don't train? You're like me.
No.
You ride your bike all the time. You ride your bike even more than me, but you don't like train for stuff like this. Was it more of a physical challenge or more of a mental challenge at this length and 10,000 feet of elevation? Like I said, we'll get into that. So
I think that it was honestly both. I mean, for me, I can ride a lot of miles. I can do 80 or 100 miles, and yeah, it hurts me, but I can move pretty fast through those miles. But after that point, I can't keep the same speed. I mean, I was keeping an 18-mile-an-hour pace for the first like 60 miles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was going, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna beat the sun. I'm gonna be able to, and my nutrition just falls apart because I have pre-existing health issues, gut issues, and sugar is the absolute worst thing for me. It completely drains me of my energy. But when you have to have all these compact snacks and you have all these gels, and I don't even like them, but you got to be able to fit, put stuff in. And so whenever I start putting all that stuff in my body, it just slows me down. And I went from like having this fast pace that I was just cranking it out, and then I felt like the hills definitely got bigger because in the beginning of the ride I was like, this isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then some of the hills they just seem like they never end at some points. But the descents are the same. I mean, the rolling hills, you're climbing and climbing and climbing, but some of the descents are just as gnarly. Like they're choppy. I saw a couple pretty bad
just
wrecks.
like hitting your brakes descents where you might need a.
Yeah, I was kind of just letting it go. And there was a couple times. I mean, some of them are chunky and rocky, and I'm literally like, it's bouncing. I'm bouncing and going 25 miles an hour down the hill, and that you could lose control at any minute or hit a rock, or because some of them are super chunky. There's some smooth gravel roads, and then it goes on to some sections where they're way less traveled by vehicle. And they're just like chunky, rocky areas that are more like double track.
I heard people say there's a big difference between like different parts of the course where
Yeah,
it goes from being like the super sharp flint to being fast and smooth, typical what we consider gravel, to being like actually like chunk gravel.
yeah,
So
yeah, definitely. And I saw a guy go down right before the first aid station, and he was flying down a hill that had a turn in the middle of it, and he lost control and went down pretty hard, ripped his shorts, his leg was bleeding, his arms were bleeding, and I was like, this guy, I asked him if he was okay, and he kind of signaled that, hey, I'm, just go ahead. And so I left and I went back, and later on in the race, I seen that same guy just pass me by, and he was all bandaged up, and I was like, oh man, it's so good to see that you're back up, because I saw your wreck. And then I saw a couple actually go down on a tandem right in front of me, where there was a police directing people and telling them to slow down, like there's a sharp turn here, loose gravel, and they went down, and I was like, same situation where I was like, I don't know if these guys are going to continue, and later on in the race they passed me up too.
here's a great Micah question.
You want to know if I ate any slaw? I didn't know slaw on this ride.
Speaking of which, I saw Slaw at the bar tonight. So.
Yeah, I saw that Slaw had some gloves that he probably purchased at Dirty River, and so when we stopped at the shop before we drove out to Emporia, and I told my wife, I was like, I got to get these gloves. These are what Slaw wears. So I was like, these are gonna bring me good luck.
So I had your stats up here. So 202 miles, 1348, 10,000 feet of elevation, and an average of 14.6, which I think is super impressive. Right now, like, not having the best riding year of my life, like when I average 15 on a ride that's 20, 30, 40 miles, I'm happy. So
Yeah.
This is like really, really impressive. And then again, the 10,000 feet of elevation. So everyone talks about Unbound, like it's reasonably flat. Oh, Jeff's in here. But no matter what, like 200 miles flat is long. This isn't 200 miles flat. This is 200 miles with 10,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah.
But so is again, I think that's a ton of elevation no matter what. But it's not steep climbs, but it is, you said some were long, so you always feel like you're turning the pedals pretty good.
Yeah, you're definitely, there's definitely some areas where, you're riding flat, and then there's rolling hills, but you're not getting enough speed going down these hills to get up the next one. And some of them are...
So it's not, when people say rollers, that usually means, yes, you bomb into a hill
and then
you get almost to the top, and then you shift a couple gears.
Yeah.
These are long enough that you're saying you're working.
Oh, you're working. I'm not going to lie. I walked up probably 4 hills on the ride.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because towards the end, I got so fatigued and just like, I was losing steam. And towards the end, I was just, some of these hills were pretty, they were just long and big, and I was winded at that point. And so, yeah, there was a couple times I literally just got off my bike, and I was like, I just can't right now.
So to still average that pace, that means you were going so fast
that
even walking didn't crush. So you
couldn't. Some of these hills, though, you're getting the same speed walking as you are riding almost.
Oh, so they are real.
Yeah, there's some big hills. They're not just...
I think they should show us probably a profile. I'm also surprised to hear you say like the curves, because I picture it like this, and on a big scale everything looks pretty straight.
Yeah.
We just came from Michigan, where when you do a gravel ride, it's like everything's cubed. You know what I mean? Like the roads are long and straight. It's not like Black Fork where you don't see the bottom of the descent.
Yeah.
Are any of these like that, or you kind of see?
You normally know when a turn's coming. It's wide open, but they are, they're just, some of it's so loose that you can underjudge, the turn and think that, it's a safe to go as fast as you want, and it can turn out not well for you.
So a lot of the climbing is front loaded up this long straight section, huh? Because so when you were hustling, this was all uphill too.
Yeah, I was really fresh in the morning. I got on my bike. So the night before, we went to bed pretty early, and I woke up and I was like, got on my bike and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel great this morning. Like sometimes I wake up in the morning and some days you wake up and you feel like you have all the energy in the world, and other days you're, running at 50%. But I woke up in the morning and I had to ride to the event, which was probably about 2.5, 3 miles from where the campsite was, and I just felt great. And I was like, man, this is going to go well for me, I think, because I just feel good. Went and watched the pros leave, and then I lined up, and my goal was to beat the sun, obviously. I wanted to make it back before dark. I did the coast to coast Michigan ride last year, and
Yeah.
I didn't beat the sun there. And so I was like, I want to do that here because I feel like I'm in way better shape now. I ride way more. And it didn't happen here either because my pace slipped so much after probably mile 80 or 90 is when I just started. I went from going 18 and I just kept watching my numbers drop 17, 16.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing everything.
The numbers. This is one time where I feel like my computer, I'd want just navigation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to look at anything else. I'd want to ride how I felt.
Yeah.
Because again, you're not like trained for 200 miles, so you're not someone who's like riding to power or
No.
riding to heartbeat. So I feel like
No.
seeing those numbers would just be like heartbreaking more than anything. Like,
Yeah, for me, that doing this ride was more of just like, I was on Instagram one day. It popped up on my feed and said, oh, here's a lottery for Unbound. And I just signed up. I wasn't really thinking that it was actually going to happen. And so then when I got an email that was like, oh, you're coming to Emporia, blah, blah, I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm like, I guess I'm going to do this. And so I asked Kat, what do you think? And she's like, I think you should, let's go. And so, yeah, it wasn't something that was like a bucket list thing to do, but I'm glad that I went.
it's one of the, it's the gravel race. I mean, Greg
Yeah.
Van Avermaet's there. Like,
Yeah.
guy who won Paris-Roubaix. Like it's wild. There's current World Tour pros there.
Yeah.
That's a question before we get too much deeper into the ride I'm curious about. So you said you watched the pros go. Is it just the pros and then everyone else, or is it like
Yeah.
a marathon where you have an estimated time and they're like corralling you, or?
They had the all the pros line up and they left at 6, and then that was just the men.
Okay.
And then they had the females leave right after that, like 10 minutes later.
Oh, it's like 6:10.
Yes,
Take off.
they take off. And then they lined up everybody else, and then everybody leaves at 6:30.
So that's just a giant group of everybody who's in the
Everybody that's there.
signed up.
Yeah, I think there's like, in the 200, I think there was 12 or 1,300 riders.
Okay. Yeah, so shitload of riders.
Yeah, lots of riders. It's wild to see, like, when this race starts, how many people that you're surrounded by, and it feels like that for like the first 80 miles. But then it disperses so much that I got to the point where I said I wasn't listening to music. I got to the point where I was all alone at certain points where I would only see like 2 people here, 3 people there, and I just kind of was just like, I need some music to put, basically try to help me get through this. And so I put my AirPods in for a little while, not the rest of the ride, but just enough to get me through some dark moments.
Yeah. Oh, is this the Rob that we know, or is it a different Rob?
Where's that at?
Rob Peters.
Oh yeah, that's him.
Yeah. What's up, Rob? Yeah. So, I was curious about just like the logistics, like we've talked about how you do it. So you can show up without a support team and hire someone.
Yeah.
Just pay them money, give them your stuff. They do that for you.
Yeah, they had a truck where like I saw people bringing their coolers and loading in the truck, and they would just sign up, and they would assign somebody to that rider to be there for them. And so when you pull into the aid stations, there's a whole tent just dedicated to people that have to hire support.
So there's that, and then the whole ride starts within a half an hour. So men pro, women pro 10 minutes later, then all you guys 20 minutes later.
Yeah, and we're not catching up with them.
No, yeah, it's just to give them a, yeah. And then at the finish, I always see them passing people. I assume that's people who did the 100-mile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the 350-mile people
Oh,
that are
because that
still
starts, you
out
said,
there.
the day before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That are still out there. And I had spoke to a couple people that have done the 350, and they were telling me stories, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like it sounds painful.
Yeah, 200 would be painful. I think my longest still is 130 or something, and that's like spending an entire day eating lunch at a brewery,
Yeah.
like nothing like this,
Yeah.
Towpath, like barely any elevation. I can't. It's been like in the back of my mind just to do a 200, but not a 200 like this.
Yeah. With all the elevation.
And the slow rolling gravel,
Yeah.
I mean,
I was out in Colorado, like a couple weeks before this event, and I did the most difficult rides I could find out there. So I feel like that was a great training for this event, even though I don't train. These were just adventure rides, but they were a lot of elevation, 6,500 on the one ride, and I think 4,000 on another ride the next day.
yeah. So some back-to-back hard rides to get.
Yeah.
Dimitri asked, the pros do 200. That's 200 is the classic Unbound.
Yeah.
But people race the 350, so it is prestigious to win the 350 as well. But the 200 is what, if you go to like cyclingnews.com, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And then there is also the 100, but I don't hear people talk about who won the 100 really.
No.
It's kind of like if you run a marathon, no one cares about who won the half marathon.
Yeah.
It's still an achievement. It just doesn't make the news.
Yeah.
So the other thing we were someone, before we move on to that, like some more of some of the esoteric, I was curious about this too. So one thing that's interesting about the people who are racing Unbound, and now that it's become so serious to race it, I feel like it's become like some of the spring classics I love in pro racing, Paris-Roubaix, Flanders, where flats and mechanicals are part of the game. Like, you can be the strongest ride out there, but that also takes a bunch of luck. So for the winners, like Greg Van Avermaet, for example, flatted 3 times. The world champion of gravel broke his rim.
Yeah.
But mechanicals for you, did you have any issues?
I had nothing happen this time, which is amazing because the last ride I did last year, when I went out to Arizona and did the Spirit World 100, my frame broke in half.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so I don't really do a lot of bike races, but I've done a handful of them, and unfortunately the one I did in Arizona, the frame broke in half, and that was not a good time. But this time everything went smooth, no mechanicals at all. But I did see plenty of other people with flat tires and situations. Yeah, bent derailleurs.
Huh. Yeah, so that's because when you were riding, the Flint Hill thing and like how that just shreds tires. My first experience of knowing about Unbound was watching when EF entered it the first time. And they were kind of the first pro team to get involved, and Taylor Finney was still riding. It was Lachlan Morton. And it was Alex Howes, and those two were still there this year. But they were just talking about how it just shreds your sidewalls. Were there times where you were nervous about the Flint Hills? Were you feeling like
sure.
these are going to get me?
The rocky sections some of it feels like you're mountain biking, coming down some of the hills because they're so chunky. And some of these spots, they have caution signs up because there are some spots where you could really lose control, and there's sharp rocks. A lot of people were flat. I got lucky and didn't have any mechanicals.
Hey Dave, could you help me with the R5 that went out? We turned it off and then back on again.
What is it?
Literally, my main camera went out. So yeah. I don't know why. Nope. I just have this one on better. No luck. Is it showing on the back of the screen?
That wasn't. It was a second ago.
Dang it. Classic window sound. There we go. Now we're back. Our audio never goes out because they're not connected, but I just prefer this.
Okay.
But yeah, that's also interesting because a lot of people in here like to talk trash about my favorite tire brand.
Yeah.
So I think we should say the tires that did not flat out for 200 miles are also standard casing Renaers, right?
Yeah.
Because these are standard casing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not even. Oh, so you're running these are 650 by 55s?
Yeah.
Yeah. And standard casing. No issues on flats.
No.
I've actually just switched my like ATB, my gunner, to the endurance casing because I ride such dumb stuff on that.
Yeah.
And I keep like kind of ruining them.
John Meltzner super chatted $14.65.
Thanks, John. I'll buy half of Aaron's dinner next time we ride together. So basically, bike in general. I think this is interesting, and then I think we can get into the other. This is a good entryway into the other details about what sets what you were doing apart from so many of the other people there.
Yeah.
But if you want to go through your bike, so I mean, we have a Crust Nor'Easter, Renaers tires at 55. What bars are you running on this?
That is the towel rack, which I got a lot of comments from Unbound riders about the bars being so wide, and I don't know. There was a few weird comments from some Unbound riders to me.
I can only imagine.
But yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, I have the towel rack, the seat. Somebody asked if that was a Brooks. It's a Burt Hound.
But yeah, Mason commented he saw that it was the Bertude in the French.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, steel fork, all steel.
Yeah.
I don't know what Crust using their steel, but they're thin tubes. A pretty compliant bike, right? It's pretty comfortable.
Yeah. I honestly, when I got there, I didn't see any other steel bikes. During the ride, maybe 2 or 3, and that's out of all the riders there. Everybody's
out of thousands of riders. You saw a couple other steel bikes.
Yeah. I know somebody. I saw that somebody got Walmart bikes, and
yeah, I saw that later. There's a big. Did you see this? The dude's riding cruiser bikes.
Yeah. But I didn't see.
But those were also serious riders who were strong riders and also still rode in kit.
Yeah. They were just having fun. I had a guy roll past me. He's like, "Oh, this dude's got to be from Portland," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm from Akron." Like,
yeah.
And then just this one guy's like, "Oh, nice bike. You can't take yourself." He's like, "You can't take yourself too seriously." I was like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah, I mean, I know it'd melt my mind. I get it at Black Fork, and I talked about it in the Black Fork video, which is a minor. I mean, pretty popular gravel race, but still, it's just like the whole like mentality of like 200 miles, like you're next to me.
Yeah.
So what do you think you paid for? Like, you know what I mean? What did it get you? Like nothing.
Yeah.
You're right next to me. So whatever.
Yeah.
You're running 1x White Industry cranks.
Yep.
What is your rear derailleur? It's a SLX, so that.
Yeah.
And are you friction shifting that?
Yeah.
So friction shifting. Yeah. Everyone who acts like you can't do anything with that. And again, when it comes to the high end, this stuff does matter. Like we watched the video of the guy who came in 10th, and he was running a felt with a low fork, and he was running mountain bike tires. Someone said 55s. Holy shit! But the winners like. Lachlan was running. He was riding a Super 6 Evo and like tires with no clearance. He had put like mountain bike tires in where they were almost touching the fork because they knew it was going to be dry. And like all those people were like going, like measuring the aerodynamics of everything. Well, they're winning.
Yeah.
They're winning by seconds or minutes. Yeah. When you're trying to get it done.
Yeah, I'm just trying to ride, and I'm riding what I enjoy to ride.
Yeah.
I'm just not really into the carbon fiber bikes. I don't I don't look at them and get excited.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with people that do. That's sweet. It doesn't. When I saw one bike there though that was in the shop that I was like, this is one that I actually really like the look of. But most of the time, I don't really see one that I'm excited or want to. I rented one in Arizona when my frame broke, and I just didn't really enjoy riding it. So it's like to ride what I like to ride.
I feel like, because people would like look at anything I post on videos and like, it's sometimes like the attitude like, well, this would be faster, and I always say faster than what? You know what I mean? Like, what do you think I'm trying to beat? You know what I mean? I'm not trying to beat anything. And it's like, long as I can hang with my friends and my faster friends, it doesn't matter. And if you're not doing a 3-week grand tour, or at the top end of Unbound where 50 seconds matters, people just don't understand that it doesn't matter that much. Like,
I don't really know what my time difference would have been if I would have been on one of those light carbon fiber bikes. I don't know because I've never really.
So they were talking about Dylan Johnson's video, and so he was talking about it like going at the fastest pace what Lachlan wanted in a record time of like 9 hours and 30 minutes, and some of the stuff he was talking about was like 1 minute.
Yeah.
So like 10. So say it would have been 10 minutes to ride a Trekkimanda on deep second carbon wheels in the fast. That's not affecting your day.
No, 10 minutes. No, I mean, 10 minutes towards the end did feel like an hour, but
yeah. Yeah, it's funny because everybody has now gone to maxing out tire size, even the fast guys. Like, it's become common knowledge that it's faster, and supple tires are comfortable, and that's what some other people are saying. Speed, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Like, comfort is fast. Riding on the bike you're comfortable on is faster than being slammed on some uncomfortable bike.
Yeah.
And I just think so many people miss that in understanding how bikes work, you know. Oh, we lost our camera again, Dave.
Is that why you're over here? I'm just gonna tell you to switch back.
See if we got any. Oh, and then so another thing that I think would be interesting to talk about is, so being one of the only people on a steel bike. So let's pull this up too. I think this is great. Wait, it's the other way. So this is also your ride outfit, right?
What's that? Yeah.
So you said everybody had a hydration pack on and probably full kit.
Yeah.
I think you said you didn't see another single person in a t-shirt.
No, I didn't see a single person in a t-shirt. I was definitely stuck out like a sore thumb a little bit, but I mean, there wasn't too many comments. There was just a handful of people that said some stuff, but there was also a lot of riders that were like, man, that bike is sick. Like, you know, a lot of compliments. But yeah, there was a few just kind of douchey, like, just unnecessary comments, like, why?
Yeah.
You know? But all in all, it was definitely, it was a good time. I'm glad we went out there.
Yeah, someone kind of, where was, someone kind of had alluded to the, Sean asked, like, besides, like, the race element, was it just fun? And I think is it? Oh yeah, outside of the race was Unbound fun.
It was. I had a good time. I had a great time with my wife just in the town the couple days before the event. We had fun even after the event. We found this really good restaurant that we ate at 2 nights in a row, and it was fun hanging out. It was fun camping. I probably would have more fun if I had a rider to ride with.
Yeah.
You know, just a friend. 200 miles is a long way to go just to be out there. But I mean, it was a fun event. I prefer Mid-South. I had way more fun at Mid-South.
It feels like Mid-South has a different vibe, like, because it does feel like even though there's racers there, they're also focusing on just the riders.
Yeah.
Is that right? I mean, because you did both. I've done
Yeah,
both.
I felt like after Mid-South, I hadn't even left yet, and I was like, I'm definitely coming back to this next year. I didn't say that at Unbound. You know, I was just like, we'll see. I don't really know if I'll do this again or not. It would just depend, I guess. But it was a great experience to go out there and do it, and I just like to push myself. I'm not trying to race anybody. I like to push myself into, you know, seeing what I'm capable of, what's next, and for myself, not really trying to one up the next guy out there.
I've talked about that a number of times, which is just a weird thing to me. Is that middle of the pack people are the worst people? Like,
Yeah.
I know this sounds bad, but it's like that's how it is at Black Fork, where it's like that's where I get the worst attitude and the worst comments. But like people who win the races are people who are like my friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people come in last are people who are my friends.
Yeah.
It's these like, I don't, what I guess weekend warrior has always been like the thing that people use to describe people. And it's like, man, you bought all the stuff,
Yeah.
you spent all this money, and you're still coming in 550th next to me. Like,
Yeah.
calm down about it. Enjoy it. Have
Yeah.
a sense of humor.
Yeah.
If someone's riding something that's different, be like, what is that? Instead of like this derogatory tone. We just, so when we were in Ann Arbor, we were checking in. Ben figured out how to check in on your timing. So
Okay.
like, he's at mile 184. Like, we got back we're done from the day, and we're like, he's going to finish this in a good time.
Yeah.
But then, like, even on Friday, we rode like these mountain bike trails out in Ann Arbor, like outside Ann Arbor, and they were smoother than Hampton. Like the
Okay.
smoothest trails you could ride. So fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
But even when we were going into the trails, someone looks at Ben and they were like, "Oh man, full rigid. Good luck today." And he had this expensive bike. We passed that guy. Like, he was standing still, and we're having a blast.
Yeah.
And I would have ridden those trails on my gravel bike.
Yeah.
And I just feel like so many people need to justify the money they spent and
Yeah.
what the vision they've been sold by all these brands that they've fallen into.
Yeah.
And we live in such a bubble because we just hang out with people who don't care about any of that stuff.
Yeah, and underbiking can be some of the most fun
Yeah.
times. I rode my Romancer in Sedona and did all the same mountain bike trails that everybody does on a drop bar rigid bike, and there was a lot of people that were like, "You're missing opportunities here. Like, you're not really doing it." Like, and I'm like, "No, I'm having a great time."
You're doing more of it
Yeah.
because all of it's exciting. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that to you. And we ride so much mixed terrain when we go out for like our group rides.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of pavement, and then there's a bunch of like weird, crazy off-road stuff that's not made for bikes, so it's harder than mountain bike trails. And
Yeah.
people don't understand. It's like, so you need a bike that can do all of those things. And if
Yeah.
you're too locked in on like full suspension, those bikes would suck for what we do most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe they would help for 10%. But I'd rather be underbiked for the 10%.
Yeah.
You know, but it's really interesting. I don't know. It's such a weird. Like I said, I think I live in a bubble because I just came from people who didn't care about the bikes, like people who didn't care about equipment. That's how I got into riding. And
Yeah.
then once I got into more stuff, I met the people through this channel, people like Pudgy, you know, and people like William LeBron, everyone I'm looking at on the screen, who just weren't like, we're all nerds about bikes, but we're not nerds about top end race bikes.
Yeah.
You know, such a different.
Yeah, it's different. Totally different.
Yeah. And we spend too much money on bike bling. I'm not saying like we're
Yeah.
immune to anything. And like, you know, I buy cycling shorts now. They're just not bibs.
Yeah.
Because I found out my cutoff jeans just wear out. I blast holes in the crotch in like 10 rides.
Yeah.
You know? So it's not like we don't spend money on stuff, but it's just the idea of like you can buy speed, you can't buy speed. You know,
Yeah.
your carbon bike's not going to get you 14 miles an hour over 200 miles an hour. You have to do the work.
Kat was filming me when I came into the first aid station, and this is when I was already just like up against, you know, riding with all these, everybody with their water bags and everybody's kitted out, and I just pulled up to her and she's just like, "How is it?" And she has a video recording, and I'm just like, "There's so many fucking speed bikes out here."
Speed bikes. Yeah.
She just started laughing, but like that's really what it was. I mean, it's a race. So I was expecting that, but there wasn't. I didn't see many other bikes anywhere near like mine. I did run into, what was his name, Zach, that used to live in Akron. He was out there working.
Oh, Snacks. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was out working the event, and he recognized me because he saw the Dirty River sticker on the car. He's like, "Are you guys from Ohio?" I was like, "Yeah." I said, "I've ridden bikes with you before." He's like, "Oh yeah." He probably hadn't
nice.
seen me since I cut my beard off or something.
Yeah. Oh,
But-
that's true. Yeah.
So we talked for a while, and so that was cool running into somebody from the area.
Yeah, I saw him. He actually double tapped where I posted we were doing this tonight, and yeah, I rode with Snacks a bunch when he was around town. He's down in Bentonville now.
Okay.
Yeah. And I wonder if his bike shop sent him out there. Probably.
He was working for, what is it, the Orange, what are they called? He was working at a big tent.
Like Orange Sealant?
The Orange Sealant.
Oh, okay.
That's who
Yeah.
he's working for.
Oh, yeah. I
Um,
think he did leave his he moved down there, worked for a bike shop for, I think, at least 2 years, and I think he just left there, so maybe he is doing something
He was like
different.
working with the pros, I think.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He's been a mechanic for a long time and he worked at Eddie's years and years ago and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He actually got he's kind of a badass. He got kicked out of Eddie's because they wanted him to. Oh yeah, one of the guys was saying racist shit, and then someone came in. They wanted to sell him a bike the guy didn't need, and he just basically told them all to fuck off. Yeah, and that's what Pudgy says. The people at the top tier, like with the gear, they're not paying for it anyways, right?
Yeah.
I want to see if there's any. I can't breathe. You're gonna have a bad time. Any other questions that like related? Because we were kind of just chatting the whole time. The gatekeeping in the cycling community is real sometimes. Yeah, and I didn't experience that when I first got into bikes. It's been more since I've done YouTube and gone to events where I feel it because. Is that when we first started doing our group ride, there was a guy on a fat bike, there was a guy on a fixie. I was on my old mountain bike because I didn't know anything else. It was just my bike.
Yeah.
And there was a dude who had a carbon bike in full kit, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting look, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're going to the bar.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, you know. But I don't like. Again, none of this is to make fun of people who. Like cycling clothing makes sense for for a reason. I mean, it's but just never been my thing. It's not what I want to put on.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not interested in it. I don't think that it's gonna change my riding all that much, enough to justify. I just like to be comfortable. That's know.
Yeah, comfortable. And again, there are things I've done where it's like I've learned about like certain like synthetics and merino wool for really hot long days, and maybe I'll throw that on. Or in the winter, riding in the winter, like gear has become a little more important. You know, like you can't just go out there and like the moon boots and the cotton like
Nah.
long johns our parents threw us in to go play in the snow.
Nah.
You know?
I've definitely learned over the last like 2 winters that the clothes make a huge difference, and I've invested in all that so that I can ride through the winter, because in Ohio it can be pretty dark over the winter if you're not out there. Just you got to go out and just be in it, or else you're gonna hit that seasonal depression.
Yeah, I feel like it matters more in the winter than the summer. Summer's like I always just when we started riding, I wouldn't wear shorts. Like just like my punk rock attitude, and then working at the farm where we didn't wear shorts because everything would cut your legs up.
Yeah.
Like we'd be riding on 90-degree days, like
In
20
jeans.
miles an hour through the Cuyahoga Valleys, and I'd be wearing just Levi's.
Yeah. Gotta get those punk points.
Yeah, should we speed bikes. Douchey comments are part of the race. Right? Sam said the vibes are right at Mid-South.
Oh, for sure.
Elitism knows no bounds. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Like I said, it's always at the extreme ends of the spectrum, and I don't mean like this doesn't mean everyone's like that, but I feel like people who are super dialed in on road or super dialed in on mountain have no leeway for something that does everything. I just rode my bike on 55s like 15 miles today, and it was all road.
Yeah.
And they're knobby Renaers on enduring casings, but that's what I had my bags on, and they're sweet bars, and it was fine because
Yeah.
I'm not trying to win. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like going to ride my bike, and like some people could just never understand that. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too how you came into cycling, like probably a little bit similar to Erin, my girlfriend. Like, you were hanging out with us, and like some of your other friends out east.
Yeah.
You probably had less seen the racer dude stuff, right?
What's that
Just with what you had been riding, you've been less exposed to the people who did do like racing.
Oh yeah, way less. I mean, I didn't even really start riding bikes until 5 years ago, and I didn't even get a gravel bike until I did a heating and air conditioning job for Dirty River, and I traded for a bike, and I got the Space Horse, and that was kind of changed everything. The moment that I got on it, it was just like, oh, I didn't know that this was possible to be able to do all this. And so that kind of opened up the world to, that's when I really just fell in love with being on the bike every day.
Micah has a good comment here. And I this kind of what I was alluding to, and maybe I didn't make it clear enough. But he said, I don't think everyone wears a bib and jersey so they can go faster. It's a comfort thing. And I agree. Like, it's less friction. It keeps things in place. It's the reason people wear. There is cycling clothes for a reason.
Yeah.
I've always been able to be comfortable not in that stuff. As
Yeah.
I think of what you're saying too.
No,
It's
I bought bibs at one point when I was out in Asheville one time because they were on sale, and I've tried to wear them. They're just not comfortable to me, but I understand if they are comfortable to other riders, and I don't look down on anybody for what they wear. I just wear what I wear. And
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I always try and say that. I'm like, I'm more against the idea of people doing something because they believe that's what they have to do to be a cyclist.
Yeah.
And that's what so much goes on at events. Like, there's so many people who have been sold an idea of what a cyclist is, and they think they need to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, if that's comfortable for you, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're buying a $10,000 carbon bike because you think it's going to make you go faster, it's not. Doing hill repeats or doing intervals is what's going to do that for you, or just riding your bike all the time like we do.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, I understand, like I said, I've gotten more into it. When I go for long rides, I will put on more expensive wool boxers instead of my cotton boxers,
Yeah.
I might wear something synthetic or wool instead of my cotton t-shirt. Like, I get that there are things that work and that makes sense. I'm more against the idea that it's like when someone bought all that stuff, then they usually, and they're not that fast, they have an attitude towards people like us who don't do that. And that's really what I'm against in life, is going out and being okay at anything and then like being shitty to other people about it.
Yeah, because they don't have the same stuff. Yeah. And it the majority of everybody was cool to me. It was just there was just a few sideways comments that I was just like, just uncalled for, just like no reason.
Yeah.
But what else?
You'll have that in anything.
Shake it off.
Yeah. And again, it's always one of those things where you want to be like, I know not to let the few negative comments become a thing, but it's hard. Those are the ones that always stick. You know?
It sticks a little bit. You don't want to make the whole event be about those negative comments because there were so many good moments. There was a ton of good moments at the event, but it was.
This is why this keeps happening.
You think it's that thing?
Well, it's not in, so it can't be that thing. Is it happening because it's not in?
Ah, well, that's a good theory. Dead batteries are a real thing.
It keeps turning back on now. So.
Yeah. What was Spencer asked? What was your best moment there?
Honestly, just being able to be part of something that I probably in my head when I went there, I was like, I don't really have any business doing this, but that's probably not true. It just kind of feels that way as somebody from Ohio that's going to get in their car and just drive out there on a whim and just go ride 200 miles at Unbound, the biggest gravel race. It just felt good to be there and doing this and riding on in such a beautiful. I mean, the scenery is just, it doesn't stop. There's nothing around. There's no, if you go for a ride out there, you could ride on gravel roads for hundreds of miles and never come to a gas station or a house. You don't see houses. It's just rolling hills and cattle, and everything's kind of tucked away. You don't see anything, and just hundreds and hundreds of miles of just gravel.
Yeah. Just awesome riding as far as you can see. And
Yeah.
then feeling like I should come back here and do this for like way more fun.
Yeah, well, I was telling Kat, I was like, if we went out there on a Wednesday night, I was like, we wouldn't be able to go anywhere to eat. There's there's nothing out here.
Yeah. Micah said, Tim, have you tried wrapping the Canon R5 in Lycra? Let's see if we got it. Oh, yeah, we do have it working again. Now everyone's making fun of my expensive camera gear. A number of people asked about the Walmart guys. Did you happen to see them while you were out there?
I didn't see them. I just saw the post afterwards. I didn't see them, but they did the 200 on the Walmart bikes. But I think that they upgraded a lot of the components.
They even repainted them and everything, right? They stripped them completely.
They stripped them down.
Yeah.
Still cool.
Yeah, it's still cool.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely, if you just read the headline and not the article, it seems like they just went out on Walmart bikes. They didn't entirely just go out on Walmart. And I kind of alluded to that before by being, those were strong riders. There were still riders out there in kit. They were, yeah. And I think that's...
They knew that their ride was going to gain a lot of attention. It's still cool, but they knew that, we're doing this and people are going to be like, holy shit.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's like, not even in a way to put down your crust, but that's the whole idea too. Like, the right components, stuff that holds up matters. Like you're riding a steel bike, so maybe it's a pound heavier than the other bike, but if your stuff is dialed in and it works well, that's going to be the least. The rider is the biggest element of a system. When it comes to weight, you weigh way more than your bike. Your percentage of weight, I always say this, like, if I want to climb faster, this is what I need to lose. It's not getting a carbon bike. You know what I mean? I could lose 3 pounds here, or I could spend $6,000 to lose a pound off my bike. What would actually be better,
If I was trying to race and I really wanted to win races, I would maybe venture into that world, but that's not where I'm at.
You finished Unbound at a 14.6 mile per hour average. I don't know. That's impressive. Yeah. Crispy says they only swapped out the plastic pedals. They stripped those bikes all the way down.
Yeah, I thought that they put like all new components on them. I know that they still had coaster brakes, but I thought that a lot of the other components were switched out, but maybe not. I don't know.
So we kind of touched on this. He said, are you going to do it again? And then he said, Tim, any plans on doing it? I have never signed up for anything like big events where I'm just like afraid of logistics. Yeah. So like it's not that I wouldn't do Unbound or I wouldn't do Mid-South. I want to be able to do it with my friends, and like any event that has like a lottery, I've never signed up for, because like I like to travel with Ben and Aaron and Brad and you guys. And so so for me, it's a no right now, but not because I don't want to do it, just out of the simple fact I don't want to do it
just on your own if some other people aren't doing it. I feel like you can sign up for the lottery, and even if you get in, you don't have to pay and do it.
Yeah, you could always just
always just be like, oh well, my friend didn't get in, so I'm not gonna go. which is maybe the way that I would go about it next year. I would probably go if somebody else like was like, hey, I want to go give this a shot. I would go back. I mean, I had enough fun the couple days that I was there. I mean, it was a 13-hour drive,
Yeah.
so that part. But Mid-South, we had to fly out there.
Yeah.
It was a lot more costly than going to Unbound was a cheaper situation because
Be able to drive
to
to
be
it.
able to drive and take the bikes and not fly them and do all that.
Yeah, that's always still been one. I haven't flown with my bike yet. I was supposed to do, I want to do the Orange Blossom Special in Florida. I couldn't find a good deal. Like everything, like the logistics overwhelmed me, and I didn't do it. I know you've gotten used to it. You've
Yeah.
flown with your bike a bunch now.
Yeah.
But that's one of the big things when people are like, you should do this, you should do that. Also, I like plan my vacations with my friends, and then I do a couple other things. But it's not that I don't want to do things. It's also that I have limited time and resources and
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, it can be pretty reasonable to do as far as traveling. It's become really easy to. I mean, I can pack my bike and have it in the bag in 30 minutes, and it became a situation where it's just like, okay, I'm probably not really going to go anywhere without my bike anymore because why would I?
Yeah.
And then when I go to these locations, places that I go, we just ride everywhere. Kat will take her bike, I'll take mine. She'll go do the things that she likes to do while I'm doing long rides, and then we'll do, smaller rides together. And I don't know, it just makes the trip so much. To be able to explore a city on a bike is so much better than renting a car and driving around, and you don't see everything.
Yeah. Yeah, last time I had a work gig in Tallahassee, and a guy was booking everything for me. He didn't want to do the job, and he was like, hey, I'll send you down here to do this, all paid. And I was like, okay, cool. But I was like, make my plane ticket 2 days later, and then I'll do the next 2 days on my own. He's like, cool. And then I just rented a bike, and I went for a long, hard ride, and it was actually kind of horrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, I still did it, and I'm still glad I was riding, but like the bike they gave me I hated it.
Yeah.
Like it had plastic pedals. I don't ride clipless, and people who fly with and rent bikes bring their own pedals and all that stuff. So I was like, no, I don't need to because I just ride flat pedals.
Yeah.
And it had trash, absolute trash,
Yeah.
pedals on it. Then it was probably an expensive bike, but I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
It doesn't feel the same when you're on a rental or somebody else's bike.
yeah, everyone always, Bikes and Beyond always asks about RegBri. I get that this is like, so many people are so into it, it's like a seminal moment for them. But like a bike tour, I have no desire to do in a huge group. Like how we do a bunch of overnighters or
Yeah.
2 days, and then I do a vacation with like my friends and it's vacation time. RegBri do you know what RegBri is?
No.
So it's a ride across Iowa, and I think it's a week long, and you stop it's like a designated route. You stop in towns, and people love it. They meet other people. It seems like a lot of fun, but it's not up my alley at all. Like when I plan my week-long vacation, I want it to just be with my friends.
Yeah.
Like, just personal.
Pudgy Bevel Pusher super chatted $1.99. Let the profanity fly. Beaches fuck balls. Baby bottle. Cricket. Curling stone.
Curling stone. Oh, Blackball jumped in here. What's up, Blackball? Rob said, I packed my bike in a travel case for Mid-South, and they only charge my regular checked bags. That's real hit or miss, though, depending on the airline,
It
right?
depends on the
Where you're
airline.
going.
Frontier charges $75 each way. But then if you fly like American or Delta, I think sometimes it's only $30. I flew American, it's only $30. I went to Mid-South with Rob. We met up, and I don't know, it was great. I know that he's planning to go back, and I'm planning on going. Probably end up getting a spot together again and kind of doing what we did this past year.
Nice. Yeah, and I guess it's not so much about the cost of flying with your bike. Sometimes the cost of flying, if the timing isn't right, is just expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would rather pay $150 to have my bike than $100 to rent a bike. Which actually, I think the bike I rented was probably around $150 anyways. But
Yeah.
yeah. Alaska is great for bikes, but they don't fly anywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere, yeah. Most of my trips are usually to Arizona, Colorado, or California, and I feel like if you go to one of those main hubs, I mean, we've been getting flights for like $120 round trip or $200 round trip, and so you're not really the cost isn't that great. I mean, I spent more money driving to Unbound than I've spent to fly to Denver and back, just on gas prices.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I guess, like I said, I just haven't figured it out yet and
Yeah.
haven't tried to do it yet. So it's like, but I think until you do anything like that once, it kind of is intimidating, you know. But yeah, I think it's the cost. I've never tried to break my bike down to be on a flight, whatever, because you have your own
Bag.
bike bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the simple
Honest,
word.
all I have to take off is the wheels and the bars. And
Oh, okay.
Mine doesn't. The bag that I have, it's so simple. You lower the seat down, you take the bars off, and you take the wheels off, and you mount the frame on a little stand that fits in the bag, and the wheels go into two different zipper pockets, and that's it.
Nice.
Pedals come off too, though.
Yeah, pedals.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, which is easy.
Yeah, simple.
Oh, did you ride Unbound clipless?
I did at this ride. I did it Mid-South. When I'm doing long rides like that, I feel like it's just easier for me to. I just get more in the groove, but I don't ride clipless all the time. A lot of times I take them off, and when I'm at home, I don't want to go do some of these gnarly rides that we do, and like not be able to put my foot down if I'm gonna go down.
Yeah.
I'm just not quick enough at getting out of them.
How'd you say? I think I'd rather light my dick on fire than do brag brag. No, it's funny. It's a very common question because people really like that ride, and I don't have any issues with it. It's just we're not bad route planners, so I like to go and do like not on the scale of Unbound, but we go and do Black Fork and spend the night, and we go and do other rides around here and spend the night. So I just feel like for a week-long tour, that's where I want to just go where I want to go,
Do what
the
you
route
want
I
to do,
wanna
and not be around a bunch of other cyclists, maybe.
Yeah, I don't. I'm social, but I'm not that social. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like because I was just in Ann Arbor at the Handmade Bike Show up there and did a group ride, and I love the fact that I rode and just chatted with people who were Ann Arbor locals or people from Michigan, and then going to the show and like chatting with people like who had their booth set up. I really dug that, but I don't want to do that for 7 days in a row. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I can't always be on. I have a limit on my. You
Yeah.
know?
How much time you want to spend talking to other people?
Yeah, yeah. Just because when you ride with your friends, like the dude I grew up with who always talked about the term comfortable silence. You know, like that's like golden. Like there's times where everyone's tired, and you just ride, and no one's saying anything.
Oh yeah.
Other times when you're sitting around a table with your friends, and nobody says anything.
Yeah.
When you're with strangers, you always feel like you have to fill that space with
Yeah.
conversation. So yeah.
That makes sense.
William LeBron asked, any thoughts on the 5 boroughs? Yeah, you know, I love New York and I love riding in New York, and I've watched like Terry Bia's live streamed the 5 boroughs the last 2 years. It's not something that really strikes my fancy either, because you do get to ride a couple roads that you would never be able to ride any other time of year.
Yeah.
A couple of the
They
bridges.
close them down.
Yeah. But same thing, like I just like riding in New York on a regular day. Like I
Yeah.
love riding in New York. So the group ride, the crush of people aspect doesn't do anything for me. Like, and
Yeah.
not that wouldn't be cool. If they invited me out there and they're like, make a YouTube video, we'll pay you to come out here, I totally would.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe you'll get an offer.
Yeah. But in general, no, I'm always trying to think like, can I swing going to New York this year just to go and do it? Because I just like New York.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just not the way I want to experience New York. I like experiencing New York the way it happens every day of the week.
Yeah.
You know. So. Nathan May said, Arizona is awesome for all biking. I'm a roadie and ride all over the desert in Phoenix. they have really stepped up the infrastructure.
Yeah, I was in Arizona 4 times last year.
Yeah.
I went every season.
Yeah, no, you even go in the summer.
Yeah. Well, we were in Sedona, so the temps were actually not really that bad there. We got lucky on the week that we went, but once was for a conference, but I turned it into a bike trip. But Tucson is definitely where I like cycling the most.
Tucson?
Yeah. Tucson and Patagonia.
Yeah, that looks sweet when you're
Yeah.
out there. Stephen Hansen was commenting about regular ride. You can go off route, and I get that. I guess and I think it's like anything. Susan, who used to work at the studio here with me, is a big bikes rider and tourist, and like they would always do like stuff that was planned, even if it was smaller. Me and my friends are just I think we're of an age where we Google Maps and Strava and ride with GPS. We make our own.
Yeah.
We make our own plans. Our bikepacking.com, even picking a thing and doing it on our own terms, and modifying it. That's just my preference, and it doesn't mean that this other stuff isn't cool.
Yeah.
It just means my preference for vacation is 4 or 5 friends, my route.
Yeah.
Or me and Erin, my girlfriend, just
Yeah.
like you and Kat do.
Yeah, out in the middle of nowhere and just doing your thing.
Yeah. And I do group rides, and then we usually even mix them in with our own time again, like when we go out to Nutmeg.
Yeah.
In Connecticut, it's a group ride, and I'd love to get to meet other like-minded cyclists. Kind of what we were talking about earlier is, we're around a lot of people who are a little less kitted out, little steel bikes are a little more the common thing, just a little more, less racy mentality type thing.
Yeah.
That's cool. But even that, like the week leading up to it, we usually just go and do our own thing to have that small group, be able to go to a restaurant, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Ohio is unimpressive enough. No need to go to Iowa. All right. I think we got it pretty much covered, right? What do you got?
That's pretty good. As I said, it's about abort time.
Yeah. Wrap it. Do you have any final thoughts you would? Yeah.
Not really. I would just say if you're interested in doing Unbound, you're gonna have a good time if you go and do it. And there is all these different there's all these different ride lengths. I mean, I think it's all the way down to 25 if you don't want to do
really?
a big long ride. You can do like a 25 or a 50, I believe. But yeah, I would go again, but I probably wouldn't go alone again. If I had a friend that wanted to go next year, I would sign up and go. I like to travel, and I like to ride my bike in different places. I like to see different. I just like to ride different terrain. I love riding in Ohio, and people always comment when I go on these trips about, what do you ride in Ohio? There can't be any. I'm like, there's a lot of great riding around here. Super awesome riding around here. But it's nice to get out of this area and explore other places. So I would go back.
Yeah. I definitely think that Ohio is underrated because people only pass through on the turnpike. And it's exactly what I said about Nebraska. I was going between Omaha and Lincoln, and it was beautiful, and these rolling gravel roads everywhere. And I was like, wow, I would come out here to ride. I wish I had my bike, or I wouldn't have had time on that trip anyways. But don't judge like any place just because you've driven one freeway through it, like,
Oh yeah.
So yeah. All right. What did Micah have? Yeah, the pre-planned tours feel a bit stifling. And again, some people like parameters. My parents travel with travel groups. They went to Europe. Everything was planned, and that made them feel comfortable. Yeah. Me and Aaron went to France. We planned our own trip. It just depends on who you are. It's not to look down on the way you want to ride your bike in any way. And like I said, even joking about the kit stuff, none of that matters. It's just do what works for you, but also don't do it just because it's what people are marketing to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And don't look down on other people for doing it differently. It would be my comment on all that stuff. But all right, guys. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I think next up on video-wise, it will be my trip to Ann Arbor. We did gravel, mountain bikes, and a handmade bike show. And live stream next week. I have no plans yet, but should be doing it. So, all right, peace.
See myself on your YouTube.
Okay, bye.
All right.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is not okay.
Fitzwater photo.